Aloha, everybody. Yeah, so it's actually 3 a.m. in Hawaii, and I'm here in Arizona at the moment, and we're probably going to be moving here, so it's exciting. 6 a.m. here, and I want to talk a little bit about, our my husband and I healing journey through macrobiotics, but I want to first start with some movement, and I teach the 5 element dance, based on the Chinese elements. And I thought that, I would share that with you. If any of you would like to just join in, it would be like for about 5-10 minutes to understand the 5 elements and how to embody the 5 elements through dance movement. And I also teach and certify people in this. And then they go and to their town and start creating dance jams of 5 element dance. And my next dance training is going to be in Texas, and then the other one in California, up in the Bay Area. So I'm very excited. I love dancing and I love the 5 element dance. And so why don't we start with, okay, so there's 5 elements, yeah? And so some people are very structured, and that's the earth elements. And they're really strong in their earth, right? So you got earth element people, you got 5 fire element people. Sorry, it's 6 a.m. in the morning, so I'm a little bit trying to warm up here. And you got metal people. And so there's people that are strong in one mostly, and then they may need a little bit more challenge in another one. And so the earth element is actually the muscles and the structure. And like mostly men are more earth elements and they're very structured, but there could be women like that too. And what I mean by that is the way we were raised. So how many of you here were raised very structured? And then how many of you were raised more in fluid and flowing? And how many were you raised in chaos? So I was raised more in, fluid and chaos. All of us had to take Ritalin. They gave us, because we were so hyper and there was a lot of chaos going on. And we got that hyperness from my mother because she was a little bit chaotic. And there's nothing wrong with chaos. In chaos is there's a lot of creative energy. Yeah. And in fluid, we were raised in fluid. My parents gave me a lot of space. Almost too much space. And then you have people that, were raised structured, like my husband. He was raised very structured. So then now he's very structured throughout life, wanting to be on time and, showing up and being very structured, which people who are more raised more fluid or chaos, then they're not so structured. So in the stance movement, we could actually strengthen our earth, the fluid people, by doing our earth dance. And then the people who are too structured, if they do the fluid dance movement, they break through the structure and learn to be more fluid. You see, like for instance, my mom my friend, she's really structured, and she would wake up like at 4 o'clock in the morning. Now, why do you have to wake up at 4? Because she was overly structured. And then for me, I'm more relaxed, and don't really get up at 4. Maybe I'll get up at 8 o'clock. That's how I was before 9. Yeah.
Sheri, how does that work then for your relationship between yourself and your husband when you're quite different?
It's really interesting. It feels that opposites attract. He's really young, and I could be young, but he's definitely young. And he's a Native American Hawaiian, very robust. And I find that what happened over time, because we've been married for 11, 12 years now, is that he became more fluid because it rubbed off. My fluidity in chaos energy rubbed off, and then he learned to be more relaxed, and he didn't wake up like at 5 o'clock in the morning. every day. He started waking up like at 9 and, just being more flexible. And before, it's like when we travel, he had to have a plan. And, usually in a relationship, there's one that's very, likes to plan, and the other one likes to just be spontaneous, which is the fire element. And so with Rick, that's my husband, he became more fluid and relaxed over time. And then I learned to be more structured. Now, actually, we shifted. Now I'm getting up and I'm being structured and getting up early. And then he's like sleeping in and relaxing because we rubbed off on each other. And then opposites attract because we help. What his strength is my, as they call, weakness or challenge. And then what my strength is his challenge. And so we learn from each other in that way. And so we're going to do a little bit of movement to learn how to break through that structure for the structured people. And then for the fluid people, how to build structure and focus. Yeah. And I'm just going to go through that because I still want to tell you about my story, about how I healed through macrobiotics. If you want to join in, that's fine. It's just going to be like a 5-minute kind of thing so you could really understand. And so if you want to stand up or you can stay sitting down. So what I do is I start with metal element. Metal is the lungs and large intestine. So it's all about the breath and then breaking through, and opening up through breath. So expanding the breath through the whole body. And then exhale. And then keep expanding your lungs and your breath inside. And you want to open your mouth, relax the mouth and expand the breath through the whole body. This is metal element, strengthening our metal element, which is strengthening the lungs, expanding our breath through the lungs. Yeah, feel that breath and see how much you could inhale and expand through your whole body. And so I'm just going through this quickly, but like through a dance class, we would actually really go through these a lot deeper with a longer time. And then through the fall season metal, we go into, after the breath, we go into the water element, which is the fluid body. And we allow ourselves to feel the fluid body because we're made up of water, mostly. And then so we're learning how to, like the structured people, to be fluid and flexible. And we open to our feelings through the fluid movement. And just become water. Allow your whole body and neck, relax that neck and jaws. Just become water. And then through the water element, we're going to start going into wood element, beginning to stretch and reach and grow like a tree. See how much you could expand. It's like yoga, but we're using the fluid water element with the connective tissues and reaching and stretching and growing. And feel, what do you need? Do you need to stretch your back? You stretch the legs, whatever you need. But try to use that fluid, the water with the connective tissues, growing like a tree, the wood element, which is liver. And that water element we did was the kidneys, the bladder. And the kidneys was water. And then now we're in the connective tissues, reaching and stretching and growing, which is wood element. Expanding. And then from wood, we go to earth, feeling all our muscles and strengthening our muscles.
Sheri, let's do fire.
Yeah, we're going to go into fire right after.
Oh, okay.
Because what you want to do is go into earth first before you go into fire, because
Right.
we break patterns this way. You want to strengthen and tighten all the muscles, right, in your body. And to do that for a while, because the more you tighten your muscles, when we go into fire, the more you're going to be able to break through patterns. So we have to use, it's like a wine bottle, it's the cork. You have to get really tight. And then when you open that cork bottle, you can even open up more when you go into fire. So strengthen, structure, ground, focus. This is our masculine energy. Yeah, the yang energy. And then from this here, we're gonna go into fire, boom. And then you're gonna break out into fire, which is the chaos energy. And you're just gonna allow yourself to let go, continue to move and let go. It's all about letting go in the fire, letting go. Yeah, the chaos energy. Moving everywhere. Like just letting go and seeing where your body wants to go. Yeah, that's it. And then from fire, what we do is the impulse. What does your body need? Does it need to reach and stretch out? Or does it need the earth to strengthen? Or maybe it needs water to soften, water to just soften and open. Or does it need the breath to expand the breath in the body? Breath awareness, breath work. Or does it need fire to just let go and shake it all off? Just let it all go. What are we holding on to inside? Just let that burn out in the fire and just keep moving. And that is the 5 elements. And I just did it quickly so you could understand. And but like through dance, it would last an hour and a half, and we'd actually go through each for like maybe 2 or 3 songs each, and to really embody the 5 elements within. And then the people who are fluid, they need to learn to be more focused, have boundaries. For me, it's like I needed to, that was my whole learning all my life, is how to build boundaries, how to focus, how to not get distracted, how to just really be in my power. And because I'm an empath, so the structure helps you
Hold on,
not
I'll
so much as the empath,
just mute her.
because empaths are more the fluid and the chaos. They feel stuff, and then they end up becoming the other person, not becoming the other person, but taking on the other people's stuff or becoming like them or whatever, not knowing their boundaries. But like my husband, he's really good with his boundaries because he has that, the structure and the yang. And yeah, so I love teaching that one. It's great. And so from there, I was gonna talk about a few other things that I forgot before I got into going into my story, but it'll come to me what I was gonna talk about after that, the 5 elements. But yeah, so I'll just go into the story of how my husband and I healed through macrobiotics. And so I remember I was 20 years old and I was living in Hollywood, and I was doing the acting, singing, and dancing over there. I'm from LA anyway. So I was like, okay, so when I got out of high school, I got a car and I just drove to Hollywood, and I was like excited about it. And I ran into some Hollywood people, and they're actually into macrobiotics. This is in like 1991 or something. And this one pianist that was a pianist for the Stars said, "Oh, let me cook you a macrobiotic meal." And I'm like, "Oh, okay." And at that time, I was like living in my car and meeting all kinds of people. And at that time, there's no fear, right? When you're 19 years old. 20 years old. So then he made me this macrobiotic meal. He healed himself through cancer, leukemia. And once he cooked that meal, and I would eat like hamburgers and anything, at that age. And so I ate the meal, and then I went home. And as I was driving home, something came up in me, and I ended up pulling over and throwing up in the back of this bin. I was like, oh my God. But that was, and I called him. I said, what's going on? He said, oh, you're cleansing, you're discharging. And I didn't know what that meant at the time. And I was like, oh, and he goes, she goes, so, he said, someday, Sheri, you're going to be like giving phone consultations. And he's really an extreme person. Like he was into like these just interesting things like this community and to these aliens and all kinds of interesting things. But anyway, so I just, he said, you should go up north to Oroville and learn from the people there. What's their names again?
Ihara.
Thank you. And so I'm like, okay. So I took a train up there, and then I learned from them for a couple of weeks. I did the cooking in the back with them. You pay like $10 or something, you cook with them like every day, and $10 to cook every day with them. And so I did that, and that was a wonderful experience to meet them. And I wanted to move there. And then when I moved back, my parents weren't so supportive, with me on it. So I just let it go. I wish that they were more supportive. I probably would have done it. It just didn't work out. But anyway, so then like 20 years later, or I don't know, 25, I was 46 years old. We're in Sebastopol, that's the Bay Area. And my husband and I, and then all of a sudden I started feeling burning, when I urinated. I was like, wow, I'm burning. And I didn't know what this was. And so I went to several doctors, and they didn't know what to do. Like, oh, we don't know. And then I said, maybe it was a bladder infection. And they just gave me these antibiotics, and I'm like, okay, I'll just take them. And then I got sick and allergic for them, and I ended up in the hospital, and in the middle of the night. And then they said, well, you don't even have a bladder infection. They just gave you these pills, and the tests didn't even come out yet or anything from the other doctor. And I said, no, it was sulfate. So I'm allergic to sulfate. And it was scary, waking up in the middle of the night shaking and thinking I'm going to die, and the ambulance coming and everything. And then I talked to several doctors, even my cousin's husband, and he says, oh, you have bladder cancer. Can you imagine, over the phone? And my husband was crying. I was like freaking out, and I was laying on the floor, and I was like, oh my God, I have bladder cancer. And then I was so scared, and like, I got to do something. So then my friend, she healed her colitis through macrobiotics, and her teacher was Cora Bursell. And some of you know Cora Bursell. And so I called him, and I worked with 4 other doctors before that, and they didn't know what to do. And then Cora says, oh, I know. I worked with several women, that you have, and, just do this, this, and this. I'm like, wow, he was really confident. I didn't know anybody else, any doctors are this confident. He didn't really name it anything, but at this point, I think it was like interstitial cystitis. And so Cora, it's amazing. I just started studying with him and going to his, those conferences and stuff. And he's an extreme person, an interesting person, and very caring, actually. He was so giving, like I would text him something or email, he would email right back for years. I was just so grateful. He has such a big heart. And so I'm just grateful. And then my husband had gout, so he was eating. I take him to the hospitals from gout attacks, and then he had to eat the same food I eat, because usually the woman in the house, right, is the one that feeds people. So then he actually got off his medication, and he doesn't have any more gout attacks or anything. And then he lost weight, I lost weight, and then I finally healed from my interstitial cystitis, which I didn't know was an autoimmune disease. I just found that out like about, a few months ago. And now I have Hashimoto's, low thyroid. And the reason why I found out was I was in Hawaii, and I would, when I eat really bad, like sometimes I'll binge, I got really sick and I was like shaking and I had anxiety attack. I had to like 3 times when I ate bad 3 times. So I read that the doctors would check for low thyroid if they have these anxiety attacks or something. So I thought, oh, so maybe I have low thyroid. So then I went to a naturopath in Hawaii, and then um, I went to blood test. She goes, oh, you have Hashimoto's, because she had Hashimoto's too. I said, oh man. And then I was like, oh, I got to heal this. So then I found out that Hashimoto is actually very young. And then I worked with other, because Cora's passed away now. So then I worked with several other macrobiotic teachers, the big ones that been around for a while. And they both said I'm too young. And I'm like, really? But what happened is that Cora, he teaches in a very yang way, like with the food. And the other two teachers are back east, and they taught in a very yin way. I mean, that's how I figured it out. Like they're more yin on their approach of the food, and Cora was very young. So what happened is that I was eating this food, and yeah, it healed the interstitial cystitis, but it was very more on the yang side of the food. You see, I wasn't eating any fruit at all. I was very strict and about what I was eating, very macro. And but then what happened was it made me very young, and I think it made me sick. That where it got tight in yang in this Hashimoto's. You see. So then now I'm trying to loosen that up, and they're like, "Oh, eat more fruit," and I'm like, "Oh, wow, I get to eat fruit now." And they had a more of a yin approach to me, because I was doing the yang approach with how Cora taught, and which is good. I like how he taught, because it healed me, and it made me really like very macrobiotic to the T. And then now with this other approach, more yin, where you're just like, yeah, eat fruit and you can have a little bit of this and a little bit of that, a little bit of fish. And I was like, oh, okay. So then I went the other way, which is fine, because I guess I had trying to relax, And what I found was interstitial cystitis is an autoimmune disease. And what happens is with Hashimoto's that you could get other autoimmune diseases. So I'm thinking that maybe that I had this for a very long time, and that interstitial cystitis came from the Hashimoto's. And so now I'm trying to be macrobiotics, which is not easy right now for me, because I'm working with a naturopath and they have a different approach. So I'm like, okay. And I thought, well, yeah, maybe I'll just use a little bit of natural, natural path ways with the macrobiotics at this point, because Hashimoto's is not an easy, it's not easy to heal. I don't think so. I think the interstititis was much easier to heal, you see. So I'm at this point of in the middle. Well, I got tests done. Oh, that's what I was going to talk about. Now I got it. I got the test done, and then it shows that I have high cholesterol, which is very strange to me, because I stopped eating meat and all that. But the high cholesterol comes with the Hashimoto's. And when I tested last time, it was even higher. And the points, or what do you call it? The numbers are higher too. So then I decided to work with a geneticist naturopath. And she checks to see if I have the genetic marker for Hashimoto's. So this is really interesting, because it's hard to find a geneticist naturopath. They're very rare. And somehow I just came across, and I did the 23andMe, and then she decoded and checked to see, markers. And she says, you don't have a Hashimoto genetic marker. So this means that when you don't have a genetic marker, that you could actually reverse. It's easier to reverse. There's something else going on. another, like, I was eating a lot of wheat, you know, and I mean, I was making bread and just really into it during the COVID. And so a lot of times it's connected to maybe the wheat, you know, and maybe it was a virus, you know, mono, or, but I don't think it was that for me. And then it could be so we have to find the underlying condition. And so that's where I'm at right now. Right now, I'm doing a parasite cleanse. And then later on, I'll be doing a metal cleanse. And, but I've been, you know, it took us a few years to heal the interstitial cystitis, maybe about a year. But now I'm at this point with the Hashimoto's, and it's kind of, it's not easy because there's a lot of things I can't eat now. And because you have to go through this whole thing with Hashimoto's to find out the underlying condition. Is it the food? You know, like certain vegetables that could be attacking the making this happen, or is it the wheat, or is it, you know, a virus, or is it metal, or is it parasites? So it's a very difficult disease to heal and to figure out. But I feel like I going through this because it's my next level, you see, because, you know, every time I get some kind of disease, it's like I have to go to my next level of understanding. And yeah, it's definitely bringing me to another level of understanding. So yeah, if you have any questions or anything, or even if you have any thing that I could learn from with this.
Anybody? So in that case, let me ask if there's anybody here, there are 26 of us at the moment present. Let's hear some other healing stories. To some of you, some of the other people who are listening. Anyone want to share kind of what they've gone through? And we had this opportunity. Now we've got another 15, 20 minutes. Let's hear some other healing stories.
Alan, just unmute yourself.
Sorry. Hi. Thanks, Sheri. Thanks, Gannett. I'm hypothyroid, and I also am a dietitian. So, but I've been in and out of macrobiotics for a couple of decades. And so I wanted to say that I understand that certain foods in large quantities are a problem for thyroid. That would be soy, but you know, you can manage it. You can have soy, just don't overdo. And then the crucifers, which are known to fight cancer, you know, cabbage, cauliflower, broccoli, even kale, just, you can have those, but cook them, don't eat them raw. And okay, and don't use fluoride toothpaste. And and for flax, don't use too much. Like the seed was, I think, 2 teaspoons or 2 tablespoons, and the oil was 2 teaspoons. I'm still waking up here. Don't mind me. So I was just going to say that it has to do with the iodine either becoming, you know, scarce from competition from other elements, or it doesn't get absorbed properly, or just
T3, T4, T3 and T4.
Yes, exactly. So there are some things, you know, you can do about it with food, absolutely. And I still take a thyroid pill because I started this decades ago with a thyroid. And
okay, yeah. If you, because see, I caught it really early because I had a feeling I had some thyroid things. So then I'm going to go get this checked. And so I'm on the early stage, I think, because I don't have any symptoms except for not being able to sleep a little bit at night. But I just went through my menopause, so maybe it's all.
Yeah. Well, mine started because I had a neighbor upstairs and with wooden floors who thought he was Buckminster Fuller, and he didn't sleep around the clock. and he kept me up. So like for 2 years of that, after not sleeping, it just kind of the stress. But
Oh, I see. Yeah, it's really hard for me right now because my naturopath says, don't eat beans, don't eat wheat, don't eat grains right now. She even
oh,
told me not to eat any grains. So can you imagine? I'm like, what am I going to eat? So
no, I
yes.
disagree.
Oh, okay.
I'm not God. I'm just I do understand that some people are bothered by gluten, and I would say that dairy is believed to be a problem too for a lot of people. And
Yeah.
I cut that out because of another diagnosis way out, but and it's probably true. I believe it's true.
But what about like meat, like saying chicken or something? Do you think that might, because I'm trying to figure out like there's not much I could eat right now. And so,
All I know is when when I was macrobiotic and I had beans and I had everything, my my thyroid was better. I was able to use a smaller dose, but my TASH, thyroid stimulating hormone, which is the indicator to Western doctors, it's not the only indicator of how your thyroid's doing. That number went way up, but I felt great and I was not gaining weight. And
yeah.
so I, I, I wouldn't worry about beans. I would limit the soy. And there's something about seaweed, but I think those of us who grew up in the United States without eating a lot of seaweed, you don't go crazy, because when you see how to make miso soup on the internet, you see it's coming from people who grew up with it, like in Japan or China. Lots of seaweed in it. I believe that may be too much for us. I'm not an expert on that. I'm always trying to find out more about seaweed. It's obviously excellent for you. I just there's a moderation amount. But
Oh, I see.
yeah,
Yeah, maybe I find maybe one sheet of seaweed that I do, and then but when you say miso, are you talking like, I mean soy, are you talking about miso and tamari also?
oh, that's a good question. No, I mean, unless you have a food sensitivity or an allergy to soy, I wouldn't wipe that up. How much do you use anyway? You use it, what, 1 or 2 teaspoons of miso a day, maybe?
Yeah,
And
yeah.
and there is soy-free miso if you were really worried, but I'm not that worried. I have tofu all the time. Not every day, but I have it a lot.
Oh, okay. I don't have it at all right now.
We're all
But
different. Everybody's different, but a little.
yeah, the miso is important, I think for the
I think
immune
so. Yeah.
system. But just a little bit. I think that I was doing way too much salt. I mean, I was just like tamari and miso and salt,
Yeah.
salt that. And that's another thing I'm thinking maybe I was having way too much salt, not enough water, because my teaching was not to drink a lot of water, and so then I was eating a lot of, there's a whole thing. I think I was going to the extreme of things, and with the macro. And so now I'm learning to have to balance.
Yeah. Yeah. So good luck. Does anybody
Yeah.
else have any
Well, thank you
thoughts?
so much, Ellen. That really
Oh, my
helped me out
pleasure.
to
Yeah.
think about, because I am trying to figure out how to do this, because you can't eat a lot of certain foods now, at
Well,
this time of healing.
you can. Healing. Yes, that's different. But that's,
Yeah, I'm
yeah.
reversing. I'm reversing. See, you have thyroid, but you don't have the Hashimoto's, right?
I probably do have Hashimoto's. Not huge amount of the antibody, but
Oh,
um,
okay.
yeah. But there are people in my family who have thyroid issues for sure. We're all a wreck.
It's huge
We,
right now. You should see
we're a train wreck. Our
people.
whole country, the world.
It's big. Hashimoto's on Facebook, like hundreds of people are getting this now. And they're young. They're only like 12 years, 16 years old, and they're getting Hashimoto's. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's
Ellen
I
is
think
great. Thank you very much, Ellen. I really
my pleasure.
appreciate your
yeah,
stepping
thank
forward.
you.
Anybody
Namaste.
else?
Ellen, can I ask where you are on the recovery? I don't know what
Oh,
to call it on the. Are you?
I'm I don't worry about my thyroid. I so the recovery, I get my thyroid medication compounded to keep out fillers that bothered my brain actually, and artificial colorants and things. I get it compounded. Just it's called T4 now. It's not Synthroid or anything. But I couldn't use the cheap pill. That was the Levoxyl. That really did a number on my brain.
That
Oh,
was
And
Yeah.
when my doctor first gave me, he didn't even notice it. Another friend said, "Hey, this looks enlarged." I saw that doctor a week earlier. He didn't even notice it. So when he gave me the medication, the first time he gave me too high a dose for my skinny body, and it made me psychotic. I mean, I thought I was like, oh, I was so wired. Took me a few months to figure out. I skipped one day of the pill. I felt 99% better.
Yeah, Ellen, this is natural. My naturopath gave me, it's natural. It's called
What's it
thyroid.
called? You got to see my silver hair.
It's
What's
called
it? What's it?
thyroid.
Uh,
It's a
I don't know.
glandular.
I say, okay, so it grosses me out, the thought of eating an animal's glands. Sorry. Even aside from macrobiotic, but I don't want a pig to have to die for me. I don't even, and you know what? I tried the armor, which is a glandular thing.
Oh,
And
okay.
it didn't even work for me. So if it's working for you, great. And if it's
Well,
not,
yeah, it's an early stage. I'd rather do this
yeah,
medication.
me too. I don't
So,
know anything about it. I'm sorry. Sorry, Sheri.
oh
Yeah.
no, that's fine. It's just it's the most natural. Instead of getting side effects from the other stuff, this is what I'm gonna just do, and
Yeah.
at
Give
this
it a
point,
try, right?
yeah.
Yeah. But
Who
trying to
else?
think if there's
What
anything
other
else.
stories? Clara, did you get your question answered?
Breakfast.
My daughter was also having side effects from the pills the doctors gave her. So here in Israel, it's a little bit harder to get the more natural without the fillers. So thank you, Ellen.
Oh, I'm
We're
sorry.
working on it. It's okay.
If you can order it overseas from the
I
United
thought you
States,
need a prescription.
you do.
So
You do,
she's
but
got,
I have a prescription, but my insurance doesn't pay it. I'm on Medicare. It doesn't pay as much as I just pay it because my insurance would cost me more for the equivalent. But if you want to know anything, just email me, eharris629@verizon.net, and I can
whoa,
send you.
629 at
Oh, yeah.
Horizon.
Yeah.
Okay.
So eharris629@verizon.net.
Okay.
Yeah. And
Thank you.
oh, please feel free.
Is
And
that your
another thing,
9-star key?
Say what?
629, is that your 9-star key?
No, that's my June 29 birthday.
Oh, okay.
I don't know. I don't really know the 9-star key.
another thing is the genetic markers are really amazing. I don't know if any of you guys try to decode, in the genetic marker, to find out if that is a genetic marker or not, and to see other things about that, like maybe it's the MTHFR or,
Oh, yeah.
yeah. And so that's when the Genesis comes in to check out markers and stuff. I find it to be amazing. I mean, she's just incredible about decoding everything for one's health and, through the ancestors and the system and the body.
Yeah, that MTHFR,
Uh-huh.
I got that as part of a cardiac test, Boston Heart Diagnostics. And I actually found out I'm,
Oh, you
a
are.
little weak in that area. Yeah, I don't want to swear, but I think of it as the mother effer. That's how I remember it.
Right,
because
right. Yeah,
I am
yeah.
of that generation in the United States. So,
Yeah.
so I make sure I have methylated B vitamins in my multi, which a lot of places are doing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
you could be there's people, I was low on B6, so I eat pistachios.
You do.
Yeah.
So you're good. I'm gonna turn the video off so I can eat breakfast. But I'm
Bon
engrossed.
appetit.
Sorry.
Thanks, Ellen.
Oh, my pleasure. Anyone can email me if you have a question, but I think this is all really interesting. Excuse me.
You might put your email in the chat, Ellen, if you can do
Okay,
that.
sure.
Other stories. Come on, this is our chance. Who else? We've got a lot of people out there. You must
By
have.
the way, I'm sorry. Let me just also say I get so much email. I do not recognize a stranger. So write some big bold letter caption so I'll know.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
Right. Whole Health Forum.
Something good. Okay.
Who else? Who else wants to speak? I can call on you by name because I know some of your stories. Who wants to just give us a little insight? No?
How many of you have healed your condition through macrobiotics?
Good question.
Raise your hand.
Let me switch. Hold on to the
1,
review.
2, 3. Yeah.
Donna and Michelle.
Karen.
Mm-hmm.
And how many are healing now in the process? Yeah,
That's an always process. There's always something coming and
there's
going.
always something, that's for sure.
Okay, bye.
Yeah. Michelle, did you want to say a little bit about how you healed?
Sure.
A little insight.
Yeah. So I originally went to Warren Kramer, who passed away this year, and I'm so sad about that. And I didn't listen to him. He had told me I was turning myself into a human pretzel, so which is not a good thing. And I kept eating salt and everything I wanted, wasabi on everything. And needless to say, I went from having, I'm getting older too, so I became more yang. And my lifestyle was young. My diet was young all the way. I mean, I didn't even want to look at anything yang, anything extra salty, with occasional a binge on something that was yet like extreme junk food, which is totally bad for you. So I wasn't able to discharge properly, let's put it that way. And, I had to sit for long periods of time. And eventually I got to a point where things weren't moving at all. So, and that can be a major problem of keep going forward. So what happened with me being young, I would panic. So finally I saw Jenny because I was desperate. And that was after, I think I saw Warren 10 years prior. And that's because I was having breakouts of my skin. And I'd listen to him and I would do the brown rice. And I said, okay, yeah, I'm actually doing macro now. And, my heart wasn't into it. So Jenny Waxman gave me a regimen to follow. And I was like, okay, I'm going to put my all into this. And I followed his suggestions like 90%. I couldn't make the soybean stew right. I still can't, but I'm working on it. And I didn't want to eat the carp head, even though I have fish on a rare occasion, but there's a carp head recipe where there's a lot of blood.
I'll just translate that. She's saying the word carp.
Which is is that wrong?
No, perfect.
Oh, it is. Yeah, it's a fish. It's the head of a fish that you eat in a stew. And, Danny says it's delicious. So anyway, so, so from following his suggestions, I'm still working on one condition, but my body's moving. My body's discharging properly. My iron still is low. And I think that's because when I gave up the coffee, I went back to it and I'm having more black coffee, and that's causing a little bit of chaos in my body. But I'm doing a lot better than I had been. And I didn't realize, but not only did it help me with that particular condition discharging, but it also helped me with my overall condition, like the other things were going on. I wasn't able to relax. I'm now able to relax. People are noticing that. And I'm more peaceful. I know when I'm not centered, and I know what to do to get back to center, even though I'm not, I worked late last night and I had a little bit of food I shouldn't have. And now I realize that I really can't work that late at night, because then I'll venture off in that direction. And my diet that day could have been better. So I had a yang day before I even went to work. So yeah, now I have a lot more clarity. So I think that's all I need to share, because more people. Hopefully that was helpful.
Very good. Thank you, Michelle. I appreciate that. So our time is about up. So it's for me just to thank our speakers, those who spoke spontaneously and those who spoke knowingly or purposefully, shall we say, whatever. So Sheri, are you back with us? She seems to have gone away. So I want to thank Sheri and all of our speakers. It's really a pleasure to have you here and to be able to hear these stories. There, you're back, Sheri. Good. So
Yeah,
Sheri, thank you so much. Great.
Yeah, thank you for allowing me to share this. It's been very lovely.